we have a 2x4 wall. And over here, a 2x6 wall. They're both exterior walls, and they're both framed exactly the same. These really are typical walls. Once you learn how to build these two walls, you can frame most anything you want to frame.
The framing process starts with the creation of drawings using a computer software. The drawings include dimensions and other information needed for construction. The drawings are then printed and sent to the construction site.
Now, layout's the process of taking these wall lines that we see here on the blueprint and transferring them out to the floor.
This starts marking the layout of the exterior walls. Corners are marked first. Then, using a chalk line, it is fast to snap the edge of every wall. The steps are reading, measuring, marking and snapping wall edges. Next step is the plating, the process to cut plates to fit and arrange them on the subfloor. The bottom plates are temporarily tacked on the lines previously marked. The top plates are tacked on top of the bottom plates. If there are pipes on the way, the top plate is tacked on the side or set on the edge. Next step is the interior wall plating.
Well, before Joe and I can put the walls together, we need some parts. The most efficient thing to do is cut all the parts at one time.
Headers and sills are cut and marked. Then, they are tacked together.
We knew how many we needed because we made ourselves up a cutting list. Most of the information on this list, it came straight off these blueprints. For example, here we have a 6040 window that takes a 4x6 header. We took that and we listed it right up here, 6040. We counted and we found we needed 8 of those headers.
Sills and headers are now scattered in approximate position. Next step is marking the position of every window and door on the top and bottom plate. This is made referring to the dimensions on the drawings. It's now time to mark wall intersections. This can be made using the T-shaped tool.
And since we're doing studs every 16 inches, you'd think that I was going to mark at 16, 32, 48, but in reality I'm actually going to go 3/4 of an inch before each stud mark because I need to leave room. I need to account for the fact that the sheathing has to land in the middle of the stud, and I'm going to show you more about that in a minute. But first, we're just going to pull our tape down here and make the first mark at 15 1/4, and then draw a line to one side of it. Now I can just find the next red mark on my tape measure, which is 32, and again I'm going to take 3/4 of an inch off and make a mark. And I just move my way down the wall here. The next one is 47 1/4. The next one is 63 1/4. Next one is 79 1/4. And then at the end of the stud is 8 feet. So in order for one stud to bridge between two different plates, I'm going to mark it at 95 1/4. Now what I like to do is take both plates, lay them next to each other like this, and then take a speed square and transfer those marks from one plate to the other. A lot of guys will just mark the top edge of the plate. It's faster that way, but I like to mark across the whole face of the plate. The line really helps you get it right where you want it. Now, remember that we burned 3/4 of an inch off of each one of these measurements. And the reason for that is because when I put on the sheathing on the outside of the house, you really want that seam to land in the middle of a stud. So as you can see, when I nail it on, by burning 3/4 of an inch, which is half the width of a stud, I now can straddle this stud and have solid nailing for both pieces of sheathing, this one and the one that's going to come next. The only other trick here is that when you separate your top and your bottom plates, you don't mess up this X orientation. You want to make sure you have the X on the same side of the line for both so that when you lay the stud, it doesn't end up canted.
Here, we see another expert framer marking the position of the studs, and then transferring the marking on both plates. This is made using a speed square.
Well, now that the plates are all detailed and we know where the parts will go, we can start scattering the cripples. We know how many we need, one at each end of the header and one for each layout in between. And you can see we took time to mark the links of the cripples on the headers so we know where they go.
It's now time to frame the walls. The process starts with the separation of the sill from its header. Then the cripples are nailed to the header and to the sill. This carpenter assembles the frame around every opening first. Then, the other studs are positioned. Finally, the bottom and the top plate, previously marked, are placed in final position and nailed to the studs and cripples. This framing carpenter positions everything roughly in place first, then nails all the components together. There are other ways to do the same job. The nailing process is fast and efficient, thanks to modern nail guns. He now marks the header, to finish to nail the cripples to the header. The wall is finished and it is time to raise it.